Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we have some absolutely breaking news. You see, it would appear as if China has officially thrown in the towel. You see, just the other day, the Trump administration met numerous Chinese negotiators in Switzerland for high stakes trade discussions. China's economy is buckling under the relentless pressure of President Trump's tariffs, forcing them to beg for a deal to avoid total collapse. And so, after this meeting had concluded, President Trump had this to say. A very good meeting today with China in Switzerland. Many things discussed, much agreed to. A total reset negotiated in a friendly but constructive manner. We want to see, for the good of both China and the United States, an opening up of China to American business. Great progress made. And so, folks, that comes directly from President Trump himself. President Trump has secured a monumental reset in trade relations with China, dismantling their predatory economic practices. This triumph fulfills his mission to restore American economic dominance. Here's the truth. President Trump's 145% tariffs on Chinese imports have devastated China's economy with surgical precision. Their manufacturing sector is contracting at an unprecedented rate, signaling catastrophic economic failure across their entire industrial base. Dozens of Chinese banks are teetering on the brink of collapse under financial strain induced by President Trump's tariffs. This banking crisis foreshadows an imminent economic meltdown if China can't secure a deal with President Trump. And so China has come crawling to the negotiating table because really they had no alternative. Initially, they vowed to never negotiate with Trump, but President Trump's tariffs have brought their economy down to its knees, compelling the CCP to beg for relief. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot more to talk about today, but real quick, I do want to say that if you enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. As you all know, initially, China attempted to place a 125% retaliatory tariff on American goods, but these tariffs have proven to be completely futile. Their economy relies 5 times more on our market than America depends on theirs, rendering their tariffs just a hollow gesture. China's initial retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, immediately followed by tens of billions of dollars worth of exemptions to those tariffs, shows that they're feeling the economic pain and can't sustain a trade war against President Trump's United States of America. Their economy is absolutely imploding. Meanwhile, our manufacturing sector here in America is roaring back to life. And so, really, President Trump's refusal to lower tariffs on China without substantial concessions coming from them being made reestablishes America's unchallenged economic dominance. He is forcing China to negotiate on our terms, safeguarding American workers from their predatory trade practices. And so, right now, President Xi Jinping has found himself cornered by President Trump's relentless economic pressure. The economic turmoil going on in China right now has eroded Xi Jinping's credibility amongst his own people, as workers are protesting across the country because the CCP can't afford to pay them anymore. As many of you may remember, in the middle of April, China issued a global ultimatum to nations around the world: align with China or align with the United States, one or the other. But you know what? That ultimatum backfired spectacularly. Nearly 100 countries are now forging trade deals with President Trump, abandoning China's sinking economic ship. Here's the reality. President Trump's trade war has laid bare China's unfair trade practices and rampant intellectual property theft for the entire world to see. He is correcting a global imbalance that has been exploiting American taxpayers for decades. And so, right now, President Trump's administration is outlining a 3-year path towards a comprehensive trade overhaul with China, which ensures that China can't feign compliance temporarily while secretly plotting to undermine America's economic strength in the future. And so, while China's economy is currently spiraling into chaos, America's economic performance is absolutely soaring beyond expectations. Right now, we have 3 consecutive months of reports that have shattered even the most conservative economic projections, proving that President Trump's economic agenda is absolutely unstoppable. So far, President Trump's tariffs have attracted over $5 trillion worth of manufacturing investments back to the United States, And Trump hasn't even been back in the White House for 4 months yet. For the first time in years, American workers are thriving, finally being protected from China's economic predation. The reality is that President Trump's America First agenda guarantees that any future trade deal will prioritize America's economic and national security interests rather than China's. He's securing a prosperous future where American ingenuity and labor finally reigns supreme over foreign exploitation. President Trump has completely shattered China's economic stranglehold, forcing them to stand down while America surges forward. And like we said earlier, so far, nearly 100 countries around the world have come to the negotiating table to work with President Trump's vision, completely sidelining China in the process. Pretty much, President Trump has so successfully outmaneuvered China that now they've been forced to acknowledge their colossal failure and come crawling back to the negotiating table. In truth, this total reset is exactly what President Trump has been working towards from day one. For decades, China has been taken advantage of and ripping off our country, but with this total reset, those days have come to an end. Now, President Trump can entirely rebuild our total economic relationship with China from the ground up, but this time it'll be built in accordance with the America First agenda. President Trump's plan was to tear down our economic relationship with China, then to rebuild it in a way that finally benefited Americans, as opposed to exclusively benefiting the CCP, which is how things have operated for decades now. But really, it's just absolutely astounding that President Trump was able to accomplish all of this in less than 2 months. By using his tariffs, President Trump brought the world's second largest economy to its knees, begging to work out a new, mutually beneficial trade deal. In summary, this was pretty much President Trump's approach to his negotiations with China. They can either capitulate to the America First agenda, or we will entirely cut ties with them altogether. And because China needs us 5 times more than we need them, President Trump knew that it would only be a matter of time before they totally caved. And so now, that is exactly what has happened. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, this is exactly why we voted for President Trump, to finally put America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.